Dispenser going up. Well, I guess that'll do.
Well, I did it. 163 days after the launch of Meet Your Match on December 17th, 2016 at 11:25 p.m., I reached the maximum rank in Team Fortress 2's casual mode. So, what now? Well, I guess I could talk about my opinions that I have on the system, because it's certainly one of the most controversial things to happen to the game since the free-to-play update, and I'd say that after over 1,000 matches of TF2 using this new system, I should have a pretty good idea of what is good, what is great, what is terrible, and what still needs to be fixed after all this time. So let's just get right into it then. Meet Your Match, as you probably already know, introduced a new way to join pub games in TF2. Previously, games were joined by hitting the quick play button and then getting put in specific servers based on what game modes or map you selected. This was basically just a simplified version of the server browser, which means the entire system was players manually doing ad hoc connections to servers or just asking the system to find them a server at random, which was less reliable but extremely simple and generally pretty fast. With casual mode, players join servers by doing what practically every modern game does nowadays, and requires that you join a lobby and then queue up to be placed in with other people in the queue. The system is arguably a little bit slower depending on a lot of factors like map selection, party size, physical location, or just simply the time of day. However, it allows games to be played from start to finish, usually with the same group of players, and generally encourages team play because of that. Not to mention, the mode keeps track of your personal stats and gives you a rank based on how much experience you've gained from doing well in the matches. So the purpose of casual mode is obviously to try and further promote the concept of Team Fortress 2, which is to work together with your team to successfully complete the objective, which is a good thing in my opinion. I like this game primarily because it's satisfying to pair up with friends or strangers and work together towards a common goal. That feeling is what the game is designed around. So obviously the developers would eventually design a modernized lobbying system around encouraging their players to try their best to win the match with their team. Now, I realize that casual mode is called casual for a reason, so of course no one is ever expected to sit upright in their computer chair, grab their Mountain Energy Dew drink, and sweat bullets trying their absolute hardest to cap the point every single game, but it does make people more aware of the purpose of the game, which I think is important. Play the game however you want, really. No one really cares, and if they do, then they definitely need to chill out, and sometimes, admittedly, me included. But when Meet Your Match introduced the concept of casual mode, there definitely was a large vocal crowd of people who complained that the game was becoming too competitive, and that there was obviously a very large section of players who enjoyed the silly, carefree, low-effort theme that pubs have had, and were genuinely worried that that would disappear. Well, my first talking point in this review is that Goofing Off is not dead. I've played casual mode for about an average of 3 hours every day since its launch, and I can confidently say that there is not a single difference between how pubs were when quick play was a thing and nowadays with casual mode. There is still absolute chaos, random unpredictable moments, and weird unexplainable players who range from veterans with thousands of hours to kids who just installed the game 10 minutes ago. The charm of public servers has never died, and as long as TF2 allows anyone and everyone to play this game however they want, that charm never will.
What were they even doing? What are these players doing?
The second thing I wanted to talk about is the Meet Your Match launch, because it's unanimous within the community that the launch of the casual mode was the main thing that turned people off from the concept in the first place. The list of things that were completely botched, the problems that went unnoticed or unprepared for, as well as simple things that were completely left out from the beginning, is so long that it could easily be formatted into a greatest hits album advertisement. In fact, for simplicity's sake, I'll just go ahead and do that right now. Now available on CD this winter season, get the greatest hits of problems that the casual mode has had for the last 6 months, including your favorites such as long wait times, constantly getting put in servers with high ping, no auto-balancing system when teams had a large player difference, no vote-kicking system, no rematch system resulting in constantly having to re-queue, and when they finally added a rematch system, no one used it anyway, very long wait times, huge imbalances in the team's different skill level, you were penalized for leaving a casual match before the round ended. Why? No map selection menu, no map selection preference settings, extremely long wait times, and many, many more. Order now. Call 1-800-251-2...
My name is Jay.
Most of these problems were the reasons behind many complaints about casual mode in general, but the good news is that as of now, every single one of these problems has been completely fixed, and all of the missing features have been added and seem to be working as intended. For me, the addition of the map selection menu and the maximum ping limit in particular have made casual undisputedly a better system than quick play, and I've been playing TF2 more than ever as a result. Overall, on the positive spectrum of this review, I'd say that I really like casual mode a lot. The lobbying system encourages people to play with their friends, and I'd guess that I personally lobby up in casual mode with one or more other people in my party about 90% of the time nowadays, which I hardly ever used to do because it was so difficult to coordinate getting on the same team with your friends or sometimes even in the same server. So yeah, casual mode had a really rocky start near the middle of last year, but now I'd say it's almost perfect. Of course, I chose to say almost perfect there because what would a review be without the negative points where I can complain about what is still broken after all these months? Yeah, so this is probably the part that you actually clicked on the video for, you sadistic fuck! There are no doubt still a decent number of glaring issues with casual mode, and I'll just get one right out of the way that I see people complaining about that I personally don't have a problem with at all. In fact, I prefer that it remains this way. Ad hoc connections are still disabled on Valve servers. In other words, you can't join off of people by selecting join game, you can't find Valve servers in the server browser, and you can't join a server by connecting manually via the IP address if it's a Valve server. Now, I totally understand why a lot of people want ad hoc connections back, because I sometimes also have to wait for my friends to be done with their game before I can join their lobby from the start, and it would obviously be much easier to just join their server by clicking join game on one of their profiles. However, I have what can only be described as an I am me problem, where if I leave my profile public, then anyone can join my server. This makes it very difficult to play TF2 in peace anonymously when I want to. Back before casual mode, when I streamed TF2 on Twitch, I hardly ever played in public servers because of the amount of people who would join my server just to try and get on stream or something, mostly hackers. And ask any semi-popular TF2 streamer, playing in pubs was nearly impossible before the introduction of casual mode and the simultaneous removal of ad hoc connections. Before they removed the feature, I had to make my profile private, which kind of sucked, but of course 99.9% of TF2 players don't even have these problems, so I actually would understand if they allowed ad hoc connections again. However, I would highly prefer it if Valve also gave people the option to disallow players who are not on their friends lists to join off of their profiles, so that people like me can at least keep their Steam profile public without having to worry about people trolling me. Alright, on to the real complaining here. One of the biggest problems I still have with casual mode is that the game coordinator, which used to only have to deal with people joining man versus machine games, is just terrible. It constantly goes down, and most of the time it's very slow to replace large amounts of players who leave the server. This issue results in many games that I'm sure a lot of you have seen where a lot of players leave the server in a short period of time, and then the game coordinator just does nothing about it. I don't know, the players don't get replaced, and then the game turns into a 3 versus 12 match where no one is having fun, and by the time new players are eventually matched into the server, it's too late. The game is already over because the team with 3 players obviously got rolled. Now, not only was that game a complete failure, but the people who eventually joined the server got to experience their team already getting destroyed with no real way to come back before the game ends in 30 seconds. This problem has everything to do with the game coordinator not prioritizing putting people into servers where a large amount of players all left the game around the same time, which coincidentally happens the most when the server changes maps at the end of a match. Usually when a server that just finished playing a few rounds of Payload Upward somehow decides to vote to switch to CTF Double Cross, a lot of people all leave the server at the same time to requeue to a map that they actually want to play. When this happens, the game coordinator struggles to find a large number of players all at once. I've noticed that generally when 1 or 2 people leave, they get replaced almost instantly, and most of the time when I join a game in progress, it's a full server, but in the instances where 6 or 7 people all leave within a minute of each other, the game coordinator just doesn't react quickly to it at all. It doesn't do anything for a really long time, and this could easier be said than done for all I know, because I have no idea how the system works, but I can confidently say that this is not an intended feature of the casual mode, and it still definitely needs to be fixed. So I think that's probably the only major thing wrong with casual mode right now, but I still have a few suggestions that could be implemented for the quality of life reasons, or simply just a way to make the experience better in my opinion. I'd like to be able to queue up with more than 6 people. I have a feeling that this is just because the casual mode queue and the competitive mode queue are basically the same in terms of how they're set up, but the issue still stands that sometimes I want to queue up with more than 6 people. The situation only comes up every once in a while, but it's still kind of awkward to have to tell one of your friends, oh sorry, the party is full, I guess you'll have to queue up by yourself. Maybe you'll get matched into our server. I don't know. Well, See you later. Bye-bye. It also would be nice to add an option to opt out of joining games in progress. I'm sure that joining dead games will be less of a problem when they fix the game coordinator, but sometimes I would like to play a game from the beginning and not have to worry about getting put into a match that's already halfway over. Sometimes it even puts me in servers right when it ends, so I'd appreciate it if I could opt out of that. What else do we got here? Please bring back Stopwatch mode on payload and attack defend maps. Please! I know a lot of people complained about Stopwatch and casual early on when Meet Your Match was first launched with Stopwatch included in pubs, but I think that most people were reluctant to give it a chance because of how it tended to make imbalanced games a lot shorter, which resulted in more requeuing. So I can understand why they'd remove it for the time being, so they could deal with the flow of joining and playing matches and the problems that it had early on. Fast forward to today though, and matches now tend to last a lot longer due to the skill differences being a lot less skewed. The queue times are way shorter than they were at launch, and sometimes you don't even have to requeue because of the server continuing onward with a different map at the end of each match. So I personally think that reintroducing Stopwatch after the issues with the game coordinator are solved would definitely be appropriate. In fact, I really want it back. It makes the objective of the game, like pushing the cart or capping the point, more of a server-wide focus, which results in more intense games. Nowadays, and for as long as I've even played TF2, most players just run around the map trying to farm their strange weapons, and then the only time that they ever even seem to actually be focused on pushing the cart or stacking a point is when the announcer says, "Mission ends in 30 seconds. Brian, the mission is ending in 30 seconds." And then all of a sudden the entire server remembers that there's an objective and everyone piles into one area and has the only actual semi-coordinated team fight of the entire match. Those are the most intense moments in TF2 when there's a time limit and everyone has to pitch in to help win the game. Stopwatch mode adds that concept to every round. If the blue team pushed the cart to last in 10 minutes, the red team has to do it in less than 10 minutes in order to win. You don't get cheated out of a win by failing to defend last, even though you held them back for 25 minutes, completely destroying their time. It doesn't make sense at all to say that blue team wins if they cap last slower than red did. That's not how it works in competitive mode either, so players who queue up for competitive mode and join a Badwater match will be completely confused as to why they lost as soon as the enemy team capped the third point. In fact, that argument is a large part of the last suggestion that I have for casual mode, and that is simply to bridge the gap between casual and competitive modes. Now, I feel like I have to be very clear about this. I'm not, by any means, saying that casual mode should be taken more seriously and that people need to stop experimenting and messing around in pubs. I never want that culture to stop existing. What I am suggesting is to make the casual mode reflect more of what the competitive mode features as far as game mechanics go. This includes things like expanding the map pool in competitive mode to feature more attack defend, more payload, more king of the hill, basically just more maps in general. I'd also like those game modes to be tweaked slightly in order to cater to the smaller team sizes, such as making the payload cart move faster. And then on the other end, I'd also like to see the removal of random bullet spread from casual mode. In case you didn't know, on competitive servers, bullets from shotguns and scatterguns come out of the barrel in a fixed spread, while on casual servers, bullets fly in random directions within that area. The reason why it's a fixed spread in competitive is so that there's a lot more reliable damage, a lot less randomness when firing your weapon every time, and essentially rewards skill over luck. Similarly, in Gunmetal, Valve had removed random damage spread, which made your damage numbers actually reliable in pubs, and I'm guessing that less than 10% of you guys even noticed or remembered that it happened, so I think they could easily do the same thing with bullet spread. You guys have no idea how frustrating it is to hit someone with a Frontier Justice crit dead centered on their body at point blank range and they take 18 damage because the pellets decided to go off in some random direction. And the last thing I think they should add to casual mode in order to close the gap between the two game types is to encourage class composition in-game. Yes, for thousands of years it's been a TF2 tradition to constantly point out to the 3 snipers and 4 spies on your team that they aren't helping in the slightest with pushing out of spawn, but I think enough is enough. I personally think that a straight up limit on the number of classes a team can have in both casual and in competitive would be great, but for some reason I think a lot of people would be against that, so I won't even bother bringing up my opinion for it. However, I think a decent compromise would be to alert people who are picking a class that already has 3 other people playing it that they might consider choosing something else. Also, I think it could be a good addition to highlight on the class selection screen when there are none of a certain class, such as medic, so it can encourage more people to pick the roles that are currently missing. But of course, these thoughts are getting dangerously close to people rioting and claiming that I'm encouraging that pubs be less fun, because apparently the game can only be fun for people if they get to play as the 4th sniper and wonder why their team is getting destroyed. And I say that just as you don't understand why I have to be such a tryhard, I don't understand why you think it's so hard to switch to soldier for 2 minutes and destroy the sentry gun. Boom, roasted. It goes both ways here, but in the end, it's Valve's game, so they'll end up designing it around the way that the game is meant to be played. Anyway, I know this video might have been a little boring or whatever because it's basically just me talking about the stuff that most players don't notice, and yeah, most players probably don't notice or care about how casual mode specifically typically works. If Valve adds or removes Stopwatch, or if the map selection screen now lets you save your settings. Wow. What a lot of people seem to forget is that we're all in the minority here. Just the fact that you're watching this video right now proves to me that you care more about the intricacies of how TF2 works as a video game more than over half of the people who play this game. Think about it. Millions of people have played TF2, and a very large majority of them haven't dedicated more than 100 hours to it. Compare that to the number of maybe 150,000-ish people who watch this video, and the less than half of them who even actually care about anything that I even talked about in this video, and you'll realize pretty quickly that we're in the minority. So talking about these issues and suggestions that we have publicly, and more importantly, politely, is the only way that we'll see anything change for the better, I think. As for now, I personally think that casual TF2 is in a pretty decent spot with only a few more notches to go before it's completely optimized. There still is certainly a lot to be desired as far as the competitive mode goes, and Valve's general approach to communication and their unfortunate lack of updates, but I personally am a pretty patient person who has a lot of love and passion for this game, and I will continue to play it every day as a result of that passion. So yeah. Anyway, I hope you all have a great 2017. I'm pretty optimistic for how this year is going to go. So thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you nieces and nephews next time. Bye-bye.